Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
My pleasure to be on.
We're continuing our series, Questions About the Quran, and now we are looking at what are the common words and themes in the Quran. So let's begin with what are the common words?
So, some simple words in Arabic naturally are going to be the most common words, like a word like and, wa in Arabic, for example.
So
but
let's
if we think,
disqualify all those.
so if you think of significant words that are related to some of the major themes of the Quran, one of the most striking words in the Quran is the word Allah, which means roughly something like the God. But this becomes the personal name for God in the Arabic language, Allah, occurring more than 2,500 times. We have other words which occur very frequently, like Rasul, which means messenger, and Rusul in the plural, messengers, because we have a lot of discussion in the Quran about the messengers of God, and the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as a messenger in particular. The Quran often uses the term for the life hereafter, akhirah, and in contrast with that dunya, which means this world, telling us about the life hereafter, in contrast with this world. We are often invited to paradise, so the word for paradise, Jannah, occurs often, and we are being frightened with hell. And the word for hell, nar, fire in Arabic, or sometimes Jahannam, which seems to correspond to Gehenna, which is known from the Bible. And we have also the frequent mention of names of certain prophets. So the prophet Moses, is mentioned frequently in the Quran, and hence his name. Adam, as one of the prophets of God, and very early in the human race, something the progenitor of the human race. And Abraham is mentioned frequently. Jesus is mentioned 25 times in the Quran. So when we think about the words which occur in the Quran and the frequency, that's interesting in and of itself.
And I guess these words are connected to themes too, right? Because when you look at the words and see how they're used, then you come up with some themes about what are the major themes of the Quran.
Yes, so we can say that perhaps three things are the most major themes in the Quran, stressed again and again. One is belief in God. Two is belief in the message that has come from God. And three, the belief in the life hereafter. So these are stressed again and again. We've already mentioned that God's name is used more than 2,500 times. So the belief in monotheism, that there is only one God, the same God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus, that is the one God that is promoted in the Quran. And the Quran is insisting that besides him, there is no other God. Everything else that people may have conceived of as gods or have taken as objects of worship, all of those are worthless, and only the one true God deserves to be worshipped. And in fact, all other gods, so-called gods, do not exist, only the one true God. Now, and the belief in the message that has come from God. So the Quran is a message from God, we believe, and according to the Quran itself, not only the Quran, but previous scriptures have been revealed. There is the mention of the Torah, and we understand that to be the Torah of Moses, and the Zabur, which we understand to be connected somehow to the Psalms of David. And prior to the Quran, also the Injil, or the Gospel. The Arabic word Injil seems to be close to the Greek euangelion, which means something like the good news, which is a reference in the Bible to Jesus' preachings. So we have the idea that there have been messages throughout history given by God to his prophets, some of them collected in books, and some of them only in scrolls. So the Quran mentions Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa, the scrolls of Abraham and Moses. Maybe this is connected somehow to the book of Genesis, which tells us the story of Abraham, and to the subsequent books in the Torah, which tell us about Moses and his people. So belief in the written messages from God, or oral communication from God more generally, and by extension, believing in the prophets as well that came from God. So not only the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but prophets before him. I've already mentioned names like Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. In addition to that, some 25 names of prophets are mentioned in the Quran, and most of them are biblical prophets. So we are to believe in our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, but also in all of the prophets whose names are mentioned in the Quran, but in principle, even those whose names are not mentioned in the Quran. And finally, the last theme I wanted to stress, I know I'm taking along with this, let me hurry up now. So the life hereafter. So the Quran is stressing that this is a short life. We have to think more about the life hereafter. Yes, we should work for this life, but work more for the life hereafter.
And then there's also the theme of, what our responsibilities are as human beings, our responsibility to God and our responsibility to our fellow humanity.
That's right. And to put it in a nutshell, Muslim scholars say that, there are two basic claims on us. One is the claim of God, and two is the claim of God's creation. And we have to fulfill both. So there is haqqullah, the rights of God upon us. We have to fulfill that by obeying God. And the rights of the creation upon us, that's haqqul ibad, we have to fulfill that, meaning we cannot harm the creation, but we must be helpful to the creation of God.
Thank you for sharing that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome.
If you enjoyed this video, click like and subscribe. And please donate to support our work at QuranSpeaks.com.